Good evening. I'm going to be speaking about how challenges look from the vantage point of a social enterprise. So we are a social sector organization. I represent Deshpande Foundation. And Alina, who spoke before me, has made my job a lot easier. So any challenges are there all around. And in fact, without challenges, life wouldn't be what it is. But then challenges or problems at a societal level, how do societies deal with it? So society is made out of individuals, you, me. How do individuals look at challenges? We have type A individuals who will just be oblivious of any problem, any challenge that's there. It doesn't make a difference whether it's there or not there. And then you have a second type B who will keep complaining, who will keep cribbing about the problem, who will keep armchair critics. You will have everybody to blame, the government to blame, the neighbor to blame, the commissioner to blame. You can sit and blame everybody for the problem. And the third type C are the ones who sit up and say, who stand up and say, hey, there's a challenge. Can we do something about it? And how do countries, societies, communities, how do they do depends on what's the proportion of these three A, B, C that is there in that society. We have more type Cs. We have more Alinas in the community. That community is going to be very progressive. It's going to be an advanced society. It's going to be an advanced nation. So the need is to have more people with this entrepreneurial approach to problems, challenges. At Deshpande Foundation, the way we look at the situation is that if you look at India, we are a country of about 1.4 billion. The top 200, 300 million of this country have what we call disposable income. They have problems, but there's a whole ecosystem to address every problem they have. I don't want to drive. It's going to be difficult driving to MG Road in Bangalore. I can always use an Uber or Ola, go there and do my work. I don't want to cook. There's a Zomato, there's a Swiggy, I can order. So just for about everything that a person from the top tier community, the top tier of the pyramid have, there are solutions that are there. But at the bottom of the pyramid, which is about 1.1 billion people, they too have problems. But the problem is there's no affordability. So solutions are rarely created for the bottom of the pyramid. Net, the bottom of the pyramid ends up depending on services from the government. Whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, name it, the bottom of the pyramid depends on government for its services. Now, if you look at India, we can be proud of being the top 4 or 5 GDP countries in the world, but if we divide it by the denominator, which is our population, our per capita GDP is not something we can be proud of. We can count a position from the bottom. It's much easier than trying to count from the top. So what's the way out of this? We think the idea that we are pursuing, is that can we enable the community to solve their problems? And since the definition of the problem is economic, we think the solution is also economic. Since the definition is people having disposable income and people not having disposable income, can we create that income at the bottom of the pyramid? That's the solution that we have been trying to work on. We have been ideating, we have been doing things for the last 15, 16 years. And my talk today is more to share the things that we started working on, things that we learned along the journey. So when I said the problem is economic, the solution also has to be, can we get the bottom of the pyramid to earn more? I have a point in case here. I have 2 names here on the screen. Pragya. Pragya is from a village in a taluka called Mudhol in Bagalkot district. She comes from a family of farmers. In fact, when she was very young, she lost both her parents, was brought up by her maternal uncle and others in the family. She went to school. She went to a school in her village, the government school in the village. She went to college, the nearby Taluka place. And then post that, she wants to be independent. But then it's not easy to get a job, especially if you have done your schooling in a village school, studied in a vernacular medium school, then did college from a small town, and you've done what we commonly call as a degree. You earned your degree, a BA, BCom, BSc. It's not easy to earn a job. The next person there is Mr. Chetan. His story is not different. He's from a village in Belgaum. He's done his college, but then difficult to earn a job. If we try and look, what is it that is the hurdle for these people to earn a job? Earning a job today in any of the large corporate companies is like you have to perform a decathlon there. You got to run, you got to cycle, you got to do n number of tests, group discussions, all of that to be able to earn a job. But then these to both of them, English to them is still foreign language. They never had worked on a computer before. Imagine going to an interview process of any large company. The first thing they'll tell you is to take an online test. And this, let's say Pragya, she's not used the keyboard all her life, and she's now asked to do a test on a computer. It's just not going to work. And even if by chance they clear all of that and go and sit in the interview room, they're not going to make it through because they can't speak English. They know English, they have studied college, so they can read books, but can they communicate their ideas in English? They can't. So that's the challenge, and as a foundation, our thought was, can we help them solve this problem? Can we help them overcome these challenges? Okay, another idea that we firmly believe in, when we talk of entrepreneurship, typically in the for-profit entrepreneurship, it's always, there's a new idea, an innovation that you work on, you build on, and then relevance, and that makes your business click. But then in the not-for-profit sector, in the social sector, our learning has been that it has to start with relevance. We have to start with something that's there on the ground. The innovation may not be great because most of the times the challenges on the ground at the bottom of the pyramid are very, 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 very simple. The solutions, therefore, have to be very simple because you can't have a complex problem working out of a village, of a small town. So, the firm belief for us in the social sector is that relevance comes first, plus innovation is impact. Idea number 2. We can have a very large heart. We can go down to the bottom in the village and try and solve every problem that's there. But then that's not going to work because it's not going to scale. There are a lot of organizations who work with this big heart, but then end up solving a problem in a very small geography because they try to do everything. Now, we believe that for impact at scale, especially for the kind of country that India is, for the scale that we have, it has to be heart of a social worker, but the way we work, the way we plan, the way we do things has to mimic how an enterprise, how a for-profit works. We have to go for excellence. We have to think of excellence. An ordinary solution, the solution may be simple, but it can't be ordinary. It must be thought through well. It must be piloted many times. It has to be co-created with the community, and only then will it work. So we have to work with the heart of a social worker, but think like an enterprise. So within the way we work, while empathy is always at the bottom of everything that we do, but a lot of things that we do in terms of how do we measure, how do we review things that inside the organization is not very different from any corporate world. So we measure return on investment, we measure scalability, we do product market fit, but the goal is not profits, goal is impact. So the organization is a social enterprise. So the goal is not profit, the goal is impact. So to the problem that I just mentioned of Pragya and Chetan, the definition of the problem was a few skills that they didn't possess. If we get them to develop those skills, there was a possibility of them earning a job. So the solution that we've created at a lab, we have this large campus where we have invested in doing the basic research, talking to organizations who hire, doing baseline with the students from rural communities. But all of this, since the problem is distributed, it's not all in one place. These young people are in so many places. We had to get them to one common place. So there was an investment to be made into building a residential campus. So we today have a residential campus which can house about 1,400 students. They've all passed out of college, but can't earn their jobs. So they're graduates, but just not possible to earn job. If we just leave it to them, they are not going to be able to earn their jobs. So what would they do if they don't earn a job? There's a lot of pressure. So the first thing they would do is probably pursue higher studies, do masters. Nothing against masters, but for most of them, they're just postponing the problem. So the thought was, can we get them all together? We understand the problem well, because as individuals, can they solve this problem by themselves? It's not going to be possible. They don't have the resource to invest, they don't have time, they don't have effort, and more than anything, they don't have a network. For most of us here in this room, we will have an uncle, a brother, a neighbor, somebody who can help us out, but for this community, there's just nobody to handhold for them. So what was needed was to get them into a room, spend 3-4 months, which was all worked out. It was done over multiple cycles. So today, we get them from wherever they are. They come down to Hubli, spend 3-4 months with us. End of it, 95% of them are able to earn their jobs into the best of companies in India. And every year, out of Hubli campus, we are able to place about 2,000 students from rural, from below poverty line families, who go join these companies, earn a good job, earn a good salary, send back money home, and make a difference to families in the village. Now, while we do all this, 2,000 is such a small number. Because if I just look at northern part of Karnataka, about 1.5 lakh students pass out every year. Across India, there are 85 lakh students who pass out every year from colleges, about 40,000 colleges, and there are about 11,000 universities. When India won independence, we were about 17 universities. Today, we are 11,000 universities. When India won independence, we were a few thousand colleges, 2,000 odd colleges. Today, it's 40,000. So access to education has really grown, but then there are challenges. With that scale, we have not been able to actually hang on to quality, so that's the challenge we have. And challenge number 2 that we see is that in the past, a few decades back, people were hired for their qualification, people were selected based on their marks. You have a distinction, distinction was 70 odd %, 90% was not, 95, 98, 99% was not the norm in the past. So if somebody had a degree, had a decent first class or a distinction, he or she would be eligible for job. But that's not the case anymore. The degree is just a qualifier for you to even be looked at for the process. If you don't have a degree, you won't be considered for the process. But if you have a degree, okay, some companies say you must be a 60% score in your graduation. So whether you are 60% or 90% or 95%, it doesn't matter. Because in the HR process, once you qualify 60%, then you go to the next line, next process. So degree today is just a qualifier. It doesn't help you get selected. So what is needed to get selected is very different. It is skills. What you have from college is only helping you go past the first gate. Beyond that is skills. And unfortunately, for most of these people passing out of these thousands of colleges in small towns and villages, they don't possess this. So there are other challenges, especially for girls from the small towns and villages. They face a huge challenge that the society around them, their parents, the community around them, is not open to them going out and working. And especially if they have to relocate to a place like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune, it's a big no-no. So there are challenges, there are mindset challenges. The problem is also that the 85 lakh students who pass out are all across the country. They're all not in one big pocket. They're everywhere. Okay, while today we have a solution, we are able to place about 2,000 students from rural places into college, into jobs. How do we get to this 85 lakh student that's the big challenge the country faces? The way to do that, we think, is we need to collaborate. We need to partner. The challenge lies in the colleges. The challenge lies in the universities. Can we get the universities and colleges to accept the model that we have developed? As a social enterprise, we can't address the problem to the scale that this country has. All we can do is develop models. And once the models are developed, I think it is time for us now to actually try and take this into the system, which is universities and colleges. So we have demonstrated, okay, the thought process within the organization is we prototype, we test it out to scale, to a certain scale, and then try and see if we can actually impregnate that into a system which is government, universities, and colleges. So for us today, we are working with a couple of state governments. Governments have invited us to actually take this into their state education departments. We are working with a university in Karnataka. If it works well, if the idea clicks within one university, it becomes very easily replicable. We can actually scale to huge numbers if it works with one university. The central government is talking of NEP, the new education policy. There's a lot of focus on skills. Skills and education have to go hand in hand. But the policy is there on paper, but it's taking a lot of time to actually come into action. So system needs some quick charge to actually move from the NEP paper to actually implementing it. So, so partnership is with educational institutions, which are colleges, with universities, with educational trusts, large educational trusts. We have actually partnered with some of them. They run hundreds of colleges. So they are willing to implement it in their colleges. We are trying to work with state governments. At the other end, if this has to work, we definitely have to partner with people who make small modules for this whole thing. We can't try and do everything by ourselves. That's another thing that we have learned in the whole last 12 to 15 years' time, is that if we try to do everything by ourselves, we're going to fail. We need to partner. We are partnering with companies who make content, companies who develop technology. We are partnering with an AI company. So the ask is, can we get the community to become part of everything that we're doing, including employers? Employers have to be forthcoming in saying, what's the talent they're going to hire in another 5 years from now? Otherwise, it's not going to work. Another learning for us, being an NGO, most of the times, the expectation is that it's all going to be free. An NGO will do everything for free. That's the expectation from everybody around. But then as an organization, we have firmly believed that anything free is not valued. So while we serve communities, I'm just mentioning one piece of work we do, which is helping young graduates from villages to go into jobs. We are also working with farmers. We are working with children in village schools. We are working with women to have form self-help groups. So we are working in multiple areas. We are also working with enterprising young people. We have a startup, Deshpande Startups. So I don't see Alina here. So yeah, we are proud Alina is part of the Deshpande ecosystem. We need more people like her. So anything free is not valued, and the community being served needs to have skin in the game. I think it's very easy to put, it's just one slide, but I think this is the most powerful idea that we have been actually pursuing all these years. Whether it's a student who wants to earn a job, whether it's a child in a village school who undergoes through some intervention, or a farmer in a village for whom we are doing something, or a self-help group, everybody needs to have skin in the game. What it actually, the value that this creates is that in a for-profit, when you sell something, a product or a service to a customer, the customer is paying for it, and you get to hear from the customer whether they like it, there's something wrong with it, there's something that can be better, there's rejection, your products fail, they get rejected in the market, you will have to rework, and that's what leads to excellence in organizations, in the for-profits. Unfortunately, in the not-for-profits, because there is this thing of free, the NGO does what they think is right, and the community just accepts it, and if it is useful, they're happy. If it's not, they just sit quiet. But when there is skin in the game, we hear from the community. We hear from students, this is not okay, this teacher is not okay. So, as an organization, we think there has to be something that is affordable for the community we serve. It might cost us, the cost of delivering the service or the product might be much higher, but the community needs to be paying what they can afford. So for a job-seeking student like Pragya or Chetan, we think a month's salary is affordable to them. So we do charge, we collect a small contribution from the students we serve. We call it community contribution. That's the term we have coined for this. And not only does it help us get feedback, but it also helps in actually amplifying the impact that we do get money from CSR, we get philanthropic money, and there's something coming from the community as well. So it helps us do more with the same CSR or philanthropy money. And the second thing, very, very important, is if whatever we are doing has to at some stage become part of the larger system. It has to become part of colleges, universities, government system, that then the model that we develop has to be compatible with the larger system. If we try to create a model in isolation, then we can be happy running it forever. But as a social enterprise, that's not what we want to be doing. We want to be creating a model, and at some stage, transfer it to the system, allow the system to run, and we do something else. We don't want to be in this space forever. So everything that we do, we try and see if it can actually be fitted into the system. So the model that we have created for whether it's skilling or all the other things that we do, we try and make sure that it's compatible. And in fact, we test it out. So the model that we developed in the Hubli campus, it should run in a college. So what have we done? We have partnered with 70 colleges, and we run a similar service at the 70 colleges. We do it by ourselves to prove to the college system that this can work in your colleges. We have been doing it for the last 3 years with our own staff, with our own money, and at some stage, we are sure the colleges will start accepting it, the universities will start noticing it. That's the propagate part. So for the last 3 years we have done, and now we are seeing some action in terms of colleges and governments and universities saying, hey, can we do it by ourselves? So few things. Number one, in terms of ideas in the social sector, skin in the game. Very, very important. We do it, and we hope it gets accepted. It's slowly getting accepted. Number two, whatever we do has to be compatible with the government system, with the system. Now, I'm not just saying government system. It can be education system, which is not necessarily government. So things that we do has to be compatible with the system. So yeah, these two young people that I mentioned. Pragya today works in Bangalore. She is hiring talent for global markets. She is hiring talent from across the world. And Chetan today serves a multinational paints and surface coating organization. Both of them doing well for themselves. And they are today what we call as relatable role models for the juniors in their college. Because at the colleges where they came from, there was no belief that I can get into a job like this. And today they are relatable role models for their villages, for their colleges, for their juniors. And over these years, we have created about 24,000 such young people today working and actually inspiring their juniors, saying, hey, it's possible. You just don't have to be, you are bright, but then because you come from that community, from a small village, you think that's not possible for me. Getting a job into, let's say, a TCS is beyond me. That's what a young person in a village thinks. But there are so many examples today. The community is seeing it. We are seeing some changes in the village. We may have to be at it for the next 5, 10 years, but we are confident it will make a big difference. So yeah, thank you. Those are the few things that I had to share. Thank you so much.